Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I call to order this meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, February the 2nd, 2023. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nation communities across our vast regional district and today are located on the Tk'emlúps-te-Secwépemc territory, situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwépemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Tk'emlúps-te-Secwépemc and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. We have a couple of directors who are unable to be with us this afternoon because of an accident on Highway 5. We do have one alternate here. We have Andrea Van Eiderson here for Director Houghton. So good afternoon, welcome. We will try to be easy on you. So chair's announcements. We have an update from the Thompson-Nicola Regional Library. The TNRL is thrilled to launch its second installment of the One Book, One Community shared reading experience, which will be happening this spring. Together, we will be reading Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest, which is an award-winning scientific memoir by Suzanne Simard about her life's work uncovering the social nature of trees. She is a professor of forest ecology at UBC and writes of her own life growing up in a North Thompson logging family. Spring 2023 programs for One Book, One Community will include book discussions, in-person readings with the author and more, and you can find more information in your blue folder. So nice little segue. Speaking of the library system, I was asked to be one of the testers of the new service extender program at the Ashcroft Library. I went to the branch and registered, and on Saturday, January 28th, I used my password to get into the library after hours at 3:30 after it had closed for the day. So I was asked to kick the tires on a few things in the branch. So I did that, made a couple of notes. It was overall a very, very positive experience. I'm looking forward to seeing it rolled out to patrons, which will be within the next few weeks. This will effectively double the number of hours that the Ashcroft branch is available to registered patrons, and it is a first of its kind program in the province. On January 31st, along with Vice Chair Smith, Directors O'Connor, Thorpe, CAO Scott Hildebrand, General Manager of Operations Jamie Vieira, Manager of Community and Emergency Services Kevin Skrupnik, and Emergency Program Coordinator Michael Knopf met via Zoom with BC Ombudsperson Jay Chalk and investigators from his team who are looking into the province's emergency support services and disaster financial assistance programs. The investigation is taking place around the province and recommendations arising from it will be sent to the province. Yesterday, along with directors Graham, Laird, and Thorpe, met with the Honorable Bowen Ma, who is the Minister for Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, which is a new ministry within the provincial government. Minister Ma had with her several staffers, including Parliamentary Secretary Rolly Russell, who's been very intimately connected with the Lytton situation for some time. Directors were able to raise questions and concerns around matters such as maintenance of emergency evacuation routes, coordination between different levels of government during emergency situations, and the need for more information quickly about the new long-promised provincial emergency legislation, particularly its implications for local governments. Minister Ma indicated that it was very valuable to her to hear on-the-ground information and real-world examples about what is and is not working when it comes to emergency management here in BC. Upcoming meetings. Tomorrow, we have a Regional Solid Waste Committee meeting. February 23rd, Policy and Governance Committee will be meeting. Later on February 23rd, regular board meeting, and on February 24th, Committee of the Whole. And in your blue folders, you will find information about the One Book, One Community program and any correspondence that is directed to you personally. So we move on to the agenda. Are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda? No. All right. So motion to adopt the agenda as, thank you, Director Bass. Great. Thank you, Director Thorpe. All in favor? That is carried. We have the regular board minute meetings for January 19th, 2023, and a recommendation.
Move the minutes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. Second.
Second.
Second, Director Sarai. Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Delegations and invited presentations, item 6.1. I will turn this over to Corporate Officer Campbell.
Thank you, Chair Roden. Mr. Keinitz wanted to be here to address the board today, but he unfortunately also was stuck in the accident on the highway. So in that short period of time where he notified us, myself and Ms. Sadokova had an opportunity to speak with him. And so staff will be, and we'll address this in the next item, staff will be putting forward a revised recommendation regarding filing the notice and giving him an extension.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak to this? No, then moving on to item 7.1, unfinished business. We do have an amended recommendation, which is that the corporate officer be authorized to file a notice pursuant to the authority of section 57 of the community charter on the title of Norman Keinitz and Lisa Galanov of 4248 Dixon Creek Road, if the building regulation contraventions are not brought into compliance by May 2nd, 2023. And Ms. Sadokova, did you wish to speak to that?
Yep. This would have been our recommendation. 3 months is more than adequate. Really, it is some paperwork that's missing from the owner's engineer, a final inspection, and some clarification of an older log dwelling on the property. All of that can easily be done in 3 months. But our ask is always, so when folks want every time extra time, we provide them a reasonable amount of time. And then if they don't meet it, we don't have to come back to the board with the item. We can just go ahead and put the notice on title. So we've done this historically. So this is the case here, just for clarification.
All right, thank you very much. So we do have an amended staff recommendation.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Second by Director Thorpe. Is there any discussion on the amended recommendation, giving a deadline of May 2nd to come into compliance? No. All right. Seeing no discussion and no hands in the air, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We move on to bylaws 8.1. We have an action-packed one here, so I'm going to hand this over to Corporate Officer Campbell.
Thank you, Chair Roden, and I'll let Ms. Sadokova comment on this as well. So for the board's awareness, typically or procedurally, any changes can be made to a bylaw after second reading, prior to third reading. We don't technically need to rescind second reading of these two bylaws. However, as you'll see in the report, there's been a significant change. And so staff felt that it would be prudent to rescind second reading for both the bylaws to give this board an opportunity to see the significantly changed application and bylaw, and then provide second reading again, and then finally third reading. But I'll let Mr. Sadokova comment on the application.
So basically, this is a small family run farm operation. They have livestock on the land and they have a small scale abattoir and cutting and wrapping operation. They are on ALR, mainly 3/4 of the property is on ALR. They had sought a kind of it was a complex, it's spelled out in detail in the report. I'm not going to go over all of that. Set of 2 applications to the ALC. Both those applications were denied. This was last year. So we've met with them. I mean, what they're asking is reasonable. So we found a way that we can do it within existing ALC rules and crafted the bylaw accordingly. It is a different zone. They're going to a small holding zone from a commercial zone. So it's in a way, it's the down zoning. And also the temporary use permit It is for a member of the family who who's elderly and lives in a older single-wide manufactured home, who is waiting for a place in a assisted living facility in Kamloops, and they're of course not in control, but it'll be within 3 years. So what we've done in this report, we have rolled all of this together in one package, whereby the notice process, the public hearing process, and then the temporary use permit process can all follow as long as it goes in the right order. And we'll share the notification of the neighborhood for this. So really what the board would be doing is, as corporate officer stated, changing, the zones are actually changing in the bylaw. And then we'll be going to public hearing, and based on the bylaws, if the bylaws are passed, then right away that same meeting, we could conceivably issue the temporary use permit. So on this property, in the end, there'll be a small farm operation, a meat processing plant, a single family dwelling, a manufactured home detached, and a second dwelling for another member of the family, but that'll be built on the non-ALR portion of the land. But I think that's as short as I can make it. Okay.
All right, thank you for that very succinct summation of your very fulsome report. So we have 5 recommendations, so we'll take them one at a time. Director Rain moves recommendation 1. Second, Director Laird, any discussion? On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Recommendation 2.
Move to.
Thank you. Second, Director Morris. Any discussion, questions, comments? No, on the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Recommendation 3. Director Laird, do we have a seconder? Thank you. And any discussion on item recommendation 3? No, on the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Recommendation number 4. Thank you, Director Sarai. Director Thorpe seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And number 5, the end is in sight. Thank you, Director
Second.
Rain. Second, Vice Chair Smith. Any discussion? All those in,
Just a quick question on a temporary use permit, which we said we would be put out for a 3-year period. If their use of that changes because perhaps this individual finds a placement or another place to live, is that temporary use permit then rescinded as soon as that sort of occupancy changes, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. The critical terminology is in the TUP, and TUPs are a great tool because they don't carry grandfathering, and the sort of compliance is built into them because the board can repeal them. So say the person found a place to live and somebody else moved in there. All you do is repeal or is the word repeal? Cancel, I don't know, the TUP, and off we go. So in this case, we speak to the occupant, the land, the location, it's a single wide, and it would be removed from the land entirely. It's quite an old model. It's not one that could be typically resold and moved to, the next door property. Okay.
any further questions or comments on recommendation 5? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to item 8.2, zoning amendment bylaw number 2798 for a property in Monty Lake in electoral area L. And we do have 2 staff recommendations.
Move 1.
Director Ranta, thank you. Director Laird seconds. Discussion on recommendation number 1. First and second reading. Any questions? Haven't forgotten about you, Director Sal. All right, on the question, then all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And recommendation number 2, Director Rain. Second by Director Morris. Any discussion? Questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That one is carried. Development applications, 9.1, a development variance permit application, Birch Island Electoral Area A. Thank you, Director Laird. Lots of people seconded it, so that's great. Any questions or comments? No questions on this one? On the question then, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That one is carried. Item 10.1, CAO verbal report. I will hand it over to CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Roden, and good afternoon, Board of Directors. I just have a number of items I would like to talk to you a little bit about and share some information. So number 1 being public budget engagement, TNRD annual report, our upcoming strategic planning session, some renovations that are happening in this building and provide an update, and then just some miscellaneous topics. All right, so first and foremost, budget public engagement. So the budget process is well underway, as you know, and we have launched some public consultation looking for input from our residents. A survey asking for public feedback on services and taxation was launched yesterday and will be open for the month of February. It's on our website and will be shared across all of our social media channels. I got a quick update here now just from Colton. And so it's been up for 24 hours. We've had engagements with 237 responses already. So that's actually quite good. And the average time is about a 6-minute response. So it's not a long survey, but it's certainly providing us some good information. So it's nice to get that real-time updates from Colton. So thank you to him. The TNRD's committee of the whole budget is available on our YouTube channel. So if somebody actually wants to watch that meeting, it's also time-stamped. So viewers can actually go to the spots in the budget discussion that may pertain to them. We have scheduled one-on-one meetings with many of the board members, with EA directors, and with municipalities, just to help them walk through some of the budget lines and address any questions they may have, and that's been going very well. The Finance Committee had also had a chance to discuss the budget this morning. That was our first finance meeting. The feedback was good. We also talked about a bunch of other things as far as budget things. Sorry, mind blank there. We talked about our schedule for the upcoming year. We talked about our reserves. We talked about capital and asset management, all sorts of things there. All of the feedback will help us guide and the board help them guide some of our upcoming strategic planning discussions in mid-March. And just as a reminder, the final adoption of the budget is coming up on March 30th at the regular board meeting. So secondly, the TNRD annual report. So development of the 22 annual report will commence very soon, led by the communications department. I'm very proud to say that this professional document is built and created in-house and has received amazing feedback as far as the layout, the content, and the diversity of the topics. This report will give readers a chance to learn more about our board, our structure, and each department within the organization. And an interesting fact, and please, corporate officer, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, the annual report is not required of regional districts. We choose to do that because we feel like it's really important to share some of our accomplishments, but it is required through legislation for municipalities. Our report will include all the highlights of progress that we made in 2022 and easy to read budget information as well. This will be completed in spring and shared publicly, and I encourage you all to share it once that's complete. If you're interested in seeing our 2021 version, you can certainly see that on our website as well for reference. Number 3, our TNRD strategic planning session that I mentioned is coming up on March 17th for a one-day session. We're sending out a survey to the board in mid-February to gather direction and feedback in preparation for the upcoming discussion and help kind of have those conversations a bit more prepared so we can understand what the board is thinking. A pre-strategic planning workshop is also being held with our 10 electoral area directors the week prior. 8 of the 10 directors are new to the board and new to elected official and having office. So we felt it was important to work with those 10 electoral areas prior to and help them organize some of the priorities and ideas that they may have in the electoral areas. And then we can bring that forward to the day session with the entire board. And then finally, the senior management team will also be invited to provide their feedback in the survey and will be available that day for operational perspectives and to help the board determine some of the goals they have for the next 4 years. Number 4, the civic building. So this building is the renovation update and a bit of history. I may have said this in the orientation, but wanted to just bring the board up to speed. This project is an important change for our organization as it will provide some much needed space and organization of our departments and provide, most importantly, an emergency operations space. It's my view that these changes will give us another 7 to 10 years of capacity, at least in this facility, and allow us to continue to grow effectively and efficiently. That being said, this building is constructed of cement and steel, and it's very difficult to do. So this project is taking a little bit more time, but will be done here in spring. It was determined that our library distribution system that a lot of you wouldn't see down on our 3rd floor is being transitioned to our 2nd floor in the library space, which then allows us to expand floors 3 and 4. A great example there of the expansion is allowing our operations team to actually all work in the same area versus on floor 4, 3, and 2 as they are right now. So just much more efficiency and much more effectiveness with our teams. The additional office space and cubicles are certainly going to be needed. The creation of that new emergency operations space is also very critical. In the past, all of the supplies and the computers and all the information that we have would be brought into a meeting room here. And then once the emergency is over, it would be taken back out and put in storage, which is very inconvenient and of course, very inefficient. We actually in 2021 had to take over this room and basically displace the board. And we had to actually have meetings at a different facility, which of course had costs and effort around that. So having our own dedicated EOC space is extremely important. And I think it'll be important going forward. The renovation began about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's expected to be done in spring. Renovations are going well, and I'll continue to bring updates at upcoming meetings as well. And then just lastly, just some miscellaneous topics. Conferences. So we have a number of conferences coming up. I think that's been all communicated by Chelsea. So this is just a reminder for LGLA and SILGA and FCM and UBCM that Chelsea is your go-to contact as far as booking those. I know we drew names for FCM. We started building those lists and the accommodations and all the things that have to happen behind the scenes. So if you have questions or changes, please talk to Chelsea directly so that we can be efficient in that. One other miscellaneous topic was just board committees. That is all set up now and directors have been chosen. Those committee meetings have started here just recently. We've had our first EA committee meeting, our first finance and governance committee meeting. And so we're off to a good start there. And we're talking about what the terms of references for each of those committees. And that's discussed prior to that meeting starting, and it's been very helpful for the new committees. And then finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Canada Community Building Fund, also known as gas tax, and that process that we've been using and been very successful at for many years. We'd like to do a review of that process, and some of you probably have already heard this from me, and I just want to provide a quick update on that. So this review is required from a staff perspective, and we feel strongly that we're finding that there's funding issues and debates, there's project issues, and there's some third-party projects that are creating some liability and risk to the organization. And we really want to just take a thorough understanding and a review of what we feel like could be fixed with that process. So we are going to bring that forward. Right now, we have no projects currently in the queue, like no new projects. There's ones that are certainly underway, but nothing new. So we're going to put a temporary hold on those. And the timelines that we're proposing would be, we are going to bring this policy to the EA director meeting on March 9th. And we're going to share all the information and facts with the EA directors as they are very intimately connected to this policy. Then we are going to bring it to the Policy and Governance Committee on April 19th with a recommendation. And then finally, it'll come on May 4th to the regular board meeting for final approval. We do feel like we can make some significant changes and efficiencies in that program and make sure we cover some of the concerns that staff are seeing happening over the last number of years. So with that, I will take any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, CEO Hildebrandt. Does anyone have any questions regarding the CAO report? Director Rain? Director Thorpe?
I don't really have a question, but I think some of you may have noticed I missed the budget meeting. I was blissfully skiing away in the powder. Never thought we'd have a meeting on Wednesday, so sorry, I apologize for that. But I did go on YouTube and watch the meeting. It's fantastic. This is the first time I ever looked at one of our meetings that's being recorded. Congratulate the Director of Finance on the budget presentation. But it really is very good to, now I feel like I didn't miss the meeting.
That's good. That it's important to be able to kind of relook at some of that thing too, and then share it with our residents as well. So thanks for the feedback.
And Director Thorpe?
Sorry, naive question. When you said that you're putting a hold, does that mean you're putting a hold on the projects that are in the queue that haven't started, or you're putting a hold on any new projects?
It's just new projects. There's
Thank
stuff
you.
that is certainly in the queue right now that has been approved by the board that we're moving through, and anything new, we're just going to put a short hold until we can bring the policy back to the board for better direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for CAO Hildebrand? All right, thank you very much. We move on to the Thompson-Nicola Invasive Plant Management Committee terms of reference. And there is one slight amendment to the terms of reference under membership. Currently, it says TNRD Electoral Area Director, 3 members. That was an oversight. The 3 members from the TNRD can be electoral area directors or any municipal director whose municipality takes part in the invasive plant management program. So we do have a recommendation, which has now become that we approve the Thompson-Nicola Invasive Plant Management Committee terms of reference as amended. Thank you, Director Blackwell. Second by Director Graham. Any discussion? No? Don't think so. We do have a hand up on the attendees, but I don't think it's a participant. JH. Nope, gone now. All right, that was easy. On the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that is carried. We have some reports for your information and edification under committees. Does anyone have any comments or questions on any of those items 11.11, 12, or 13? No, well, then we move briskly along to item 12.11, ABC Internet Inc. and Thomas Communications are looking for a letter of support. Director Ranta, thank you. Second. All right. Director Stanky, I'm sorry, I was completely blanking there. So thank you very much. Is there any discussion on this? It's interesting to see all the communications companies that have come out of the woodwork now that there's millions of dollars in grant funding available. Yes, they all want to provide us with high-speed internet. Wonderful. I'm not cynical at all. Do we have any questions or comments on this? All right, on the motion then, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We move on to information. We have items from the Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako and from Recycle BC. Any questions or comments on either of these 2 items? Then we move on to new business from members. Is there any new business? Oops. Sorry. CEO Hildebrand.
I typically don't have new business. Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck in that accident on Highway 5 and behind and weren't able to get here. The Director Stamer sent his alternate today, and I think Rob is also stuck behind that accident. And the request that he was asking me to bring forward is that we staff connect with Modi and have them come to an upcoming committee of the whole meeting to talk about highway safety, talk about some of the statistics and some of the issues that we're having with accidents in and around Kamloops. So that's something that we will just take forward and execute. Just wanted to pass that along to the board.
So that's for information. So we can expect to see Moti at a committee of the whole meeting to talk about highway safety.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Is there any other new business from anyone? No, then we move on to question period. No. Okay, or do we move on to question period? Are there any questions? Corporate Officer Campbell, have we received any questions? Anyone in the gallery?
I don't believe so. I don't know if there are any members of the public on Zoom that have any questions. If you do, if you could raise your hand, we'll take a moment.
Went out there in the intrawebs?
Doesn't look like it.
No, all right then. So with no further ado, I will declare this meeting adjourned.